Have you felt lately that something deep within you is shifting? That the way you used to think, act, or even define yourself doesn't quite fit anymore? It's as if the clothes of your old identity have become too tight, too small, and you can't breathe in them anymore. Maybe you look around at your life and realize the things that once gave you comfort now feel strangely hollow. The people, the habits, the patterns you've been living in for years suddenly feel foreign, like they belong to someone else, not you. And in that moment, a quiet, unsettling truth begins to whisper. Your old self is dying. This is not just a poetic metaphor. It is a real spiritual transformation that many people across the world are going through right now. You are not alone in this. Humanity itself is shifting, and you are being called to step into a higher version of who you truly are. But here's the paradox. Before the new self can fully be born, the old self must fade away. And that process, my friend, is not always graceful. It can feel terrifying. It can feel confusing. It can feel like everything you once anchored yourself to is being stripped away. You might ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why does it feel like I'm losing myself? But what if the opposite is true? What if this isn't about losing yourself at all? What if it's about finding the self that was always waiting underneath? Think of it this way. Imagine a caterpillar entering the cocoon. To the outside world, it looks like nothing is happening. To the caterpillar, it may even feel like an ending. But in that stillness, in that darkness, something miraculous is unfolding. The old form dissolves so a higher form can take its place. That's what you are experiencing right now. This is your cocoon stage. Your old self, the one built on survival, on fear, on pleasing others, on living according to society's script, is unraveling. It can no longer contain the vastness of who you are becoming. The discomfort you feel is not a mistake. It is the evidence that growth is happening. But here's the part most people miss. When the old self begins to die, the human mind interprets it as danger. The ego clings to familiarity, even if that familiarity is painful. That's why you might feel resistance. That's why you might feel like you're being pulled in two directions. One part of you wanting to expand, another part of you desperately holding on to what you know. This is why so many people feel stuck during spiritual awakenings. They mistake the death of the old self for failure, when in truth it's the doorway into liberation. So in this journey we're about to walk together, I want you to see your transformation with new eyes. Instead of fighting the shift, what if you could let it happen? Instead of fearing the unknown, what if you could trust that the universe is reorganizing your entire life for your highest good? Over the course of this video, we'll explore 3 essential layers of this process: the death of the old self, understanding why the identity you've known cannot survive where you are going; the transition void, navigating the in-between space where nothing feels solid, letting the shift happen, learning how to surrender into your higher self with grace rather than resistance. By the end, my intention is not just to explain what's happening to you, but to help you feel safe in it, to help you trust it, and to remind you that this is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a far greater one. So take a deep breath right now. Feel the air enter your body. Let yourself arrive here, in this moment, because what you're about to discover may change how you see everything you're going through. Your old self is not being destroyed. It is being released, and what will rise from its ashes is not a stranger. It is you, the real you, the one who has been waiting all along. This is not death. This is rebirth, and it all begins the moment you allow the shift to happen. And now we arrive at the closing of this journey. We began by acknowledging the unease you've been feeling, the quiet recognition that the old self no longer fits, that your life as you once knew it has started to dissolve. We walked through the death of that old identity, the unraveling of habits and patterns that could not carry you forward. We lingered in the void, that vast in-between where certainty disappears and trust becomes your only anchor. And finally, we explored the sacred art of letting the shift happen, of surrendering into the flow of life rather than resisting it. Now it is time to bring it all together. The discomfort you feel is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of rebirth. What looks like endings are really beginnings. What feels like loss is actually liberation. Every piece of your life that has fallen away has created the space for something new, something more aligned, something truer to who you really are. Your old self is not your enemy. It was simply a chapter, a version of you that carried you as far as it could. Honor it. Thank it. And then release it with love, knowing that it has fulfilled its purpose. Because beyond that chapter lies a new story, one written not by fear but by truth. The void you may find yourself in right now is not a punishment. It is the womb of your transformation. Though it feels uncertain, it is where the seeds of your new self are quietly taking root. Every moment you trust, every moment you stay present, you are nourishing those seeds. And soon they will break through the soil of your life in ways that will astonish you. And letting the shift happen, that is your daily invitation, to breathe instead of panic, to trust instead of control, to soften instead of resist, to allow life to carry you, knowing that the intelligence that created galaxies and stars also lives within you, guiding you step by step into your higher becoming. So as you leave this message, I want you to remember this. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are in the midst of the most sacred transformation a soul can undergo. The old self is dying, yes, but only because a truer, freer, more radiant self is waiting to be born. Take this with you into your days. Every ending is a doorway, every uncertainty is fertile ground, and every breath is an opportunity to align with the self you are becoming. Trust the process. Trust yourself. And above all, trust that the shift is already happening. Because the truth is simple. You are not who you were. You are not yet who you will be, but you are becoming. And in that becoming lies your freedom, your power, and your rebirth. The old self is gone. The new self is rising. And all you must do is let the shift happen. There comes a point in every seeker's journey where the old self can no longer survive. The identity you have carried, the patterns you've repeated, the masks you've worn, the stories you've told yourself, begin to crack under the weight of your own expansion. At first, this unraveling may look like chaos. You notice you no longer resonate with the same people, the same conversations, the same ambitions. What once brought you excitement now feels empty. The foods, the music, the environments you used to immerse yourself in start to feel foreign, as if you are living someone else's life. This is the death of the old self. And although the phrase might sound dramatic, it is actually one of the most sacred processes you will ever go through. The truth is, the self you are releasing was never the real you to begin with. It was a collection of survival strategies, borrowed beliefs, and societal conditioning. From the moment you entered this world, you were handed scripts, how to behave, what to chase, who to be. These scripts may have helped you fit in, but they came at the cost of your authenticity. And now, as your consciousness expands, those scripts are being burned away. But here's what makes it difficult. The old self is familiar. Even if it is painful, even if it is limiting, it has given you a sense of identity, and the ego clings desperately to identity. That's why when this death begins, you may feel like you're losing your grip on reality. You may question everything. Who am I if I'm not this job? Who am I if I'm not this relationship? Who am I if I'm not the person others expect me to be? In that questioning, fear arises. The old self doesn't leave quietly. It resists. It shouts. It pulls you back into the comfort of the known. You may feel called to retreat into old habits, to return to what once numbed the discomfort. Some people cling to toxic relationships, overwork themselves, or distract endlessly, just to avoid facing the truth that the person they thought they were is dissolving. But listen closely. This is not punishment. This is purification. Just as a snake sheds its skin when it has outgrown it, you too must release what no longer fits. Imagine the snake trying to crawl back into its old skin. It would suffocate. In the same way, if you keep trying to wear the identity you've outgrown, you will feel suffocated. Life itself will keep nudging you, sometimes gently and sometimes painfully, until you finally surrender and let go. The death of the old self often shows up as endings in the outer world. Friendships may fade, relationships may dissolve, cares may collapse. It feels as if the ground beneath you is disappearing, but these endings are not meant to destroy you. They are clearing the space for something truer, purer, and more aligned with your soul. This is why so many people confuse spiritual awakening with crisis. From the outside, it can look like everything is falling apart. But what is really happening is a deeper alignment. Life is stripping away what was never truly yours. And yes, it hurts. Yes, it feels like loss. But hidden within that loss is a profound gift. Freedom. Think of a seed. In order for the seed to become a tree, it must first break open. From the seed's perspective, it might feel like destruction. Its shell is cracking. Everything it knew as its identity is dissolving. But from the higher perspective, it is transformation. That cracking is the only way life can emerge. Or you are the seed. And the cracking you feel is not your end. It is your beginning. But here is the paradox. The more you resist this death, the more painful it becomes. Resistance amplifies suffering. Acceptance softens it. When you try to cling to what is leaving, you prolong the process. When you allow it to unfold, you begin to experience glimpses of peace, even in the midst of change. This is the invitation of the death of the old self, to trust that what is leaving was never meant to stay, and what is coming is far greater than you can imagine. It is to see endings not as punishments, but as sacred clearings. Many of you watching this right now are in the middle of this exact process. You wake up feeling lost, unmotivated, unsure of who you are. You may feel like you are grieving something you can't quite name. And in a way you are. You are grieving the version of yourself that kept you safe in the past, but cannot take you into the future. And this grief is valid. It is okay to mourn the old self. It is okay to cry, to release, to honor what once was. But beneath that grief, there is a deeper truth. You are not losing yourself. You are remembering yourself. The death of the false self is the birth of the true self. So if you are in this phase, let this message reach you. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are being reborn. The confusion, the fatigue, the loss of old desire, the crumbling of old realities, these are not signs that something is wrong. They are signs that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The old self is dying, yes, but the new self, the self that is whole, aligned, expansive and free, is already waiting. All you need to do is let go of what no longer serves you and allow life to carry you forward. This is the beauty of this process. What feels like an ending is actually the greatest beginning of all. There is a strange space you enter after the death of the old self, but before the full birth of the new. It is neither here nor there. You are no longer the person you used to be, but you do not yet feel like the person you are becoming. This space is what mystics call the void, and for most people it is the hardest part of transformation. The void is unsettling because it strips away all the illusions of certainty. For so long your identity has been tethered to roles, relationships, routines, and definitions. Now those anchors have been pulled up, and you are floating in open waters. There is no clear map, no familiar shore in sight. It feels like you are drifting in darkness, waiting for a new light to appear. This is the stage where fear becomes the loudest. The mind panics, asking, what if nothing comes next? What if I never find my path? What if I'm lost forever? These questions echo endlessly in the silence of the void. And yet, it is in this silence that the greatest transformation is happening beneath the surface. Think of a caterpillar inside its cocoon. From the outside it looks still empty, but within its entire body has dissolved into formlessness before reorganizing into a butterfly. If you looked too soon, you might think nothing was happening, but everything was happening. The void you are in is the same. It looks like stillness, but it is sacred reorganization. Most people do not understand this stage. They mistake it for failure, depression, or stagnation. They try to escape it by running back to their old life, grasping for anything familiar. Some force themselves into distractions, others numb with constant busyness. But in truth, the void is not punishment. It is initiation. You are being asked to trust a process you cannot yet see, and this trust is not easy. In the void you may feel waves of doubt, loneliness, or emptiness. Days may blur together, motivation may vanish. The things you used to chase no longer excite you, and the things you desire feel out of reach. It is like standing between two worlds, one that has collapsed and one that has not yet formed. But here is the secret most seekers miss. The void is fertile. It is not empty space. It is the womb of creation. Just like soil looks dark and lifeless before the seed sprouts, The void looks empty because something new is germinating. The stillness is not absence, it is preparation. This is why the void asks you to slow down, to stop forcing, to stop clinging. It invites you to sit with the discomfort instead of running from it, because it is in the silence, in the uncertainty, that you finally create space for the whispers of your soul to be heard. When the old noise of the ego quiets down, the subtle guidance of your higher self becomes audible. The key is learning to surrender. When you resist the void, you prolong your suffering. You demand answers, you try to control outcomes, you chase external validation. But the void is not a place of control. It is a place of trust. The more you relax into it, the more you allow new energies to take shape. Of course, surrender does not mean passivity. It does not mean doing nothing. It means choosing presence. It means showing up each day with openness, even if clarity hasn't arrived yet. It means cultivating practices that keep you grounded, breathing deeply, journaling, meditating, walking in nature, so that the uncertainty does not consume you. And most importantly, it means remembering that you are not lost. You are in transition. You are standing at the threshold of your new life, even if the doorway hasn't fully opened yet. The void feels like darkness, but it is actually the sacred pause before dawn. Let me give you an image. Imagine standing in a theater after the first act of a play has ended. The curtain falls. The stage goes dark. For a while there is silence. Nothing seems to be happening. But behind the curtain, the entire set is being changed. The actors are preparing. The props are being rearranged. The story is being reset. That silence, that darkness is not wasted. It is preparation for the next act. That is exactly what the void is in your life. The danger in this stage is that many people give up too soon. They see the silence, the darkness, and assume their story has ended. They sink into despair. But if only they held on a little longer, they would realize the curtain was about to rise on a new chapter. So if you are in the void right now, let this be your reminder. You are not being abandoned. You are being recalibrated. The old energies have been stripped away so the new can find its place. Yes, it feels uncomfortable. Yes, it feels uncertain. But uncertainty is the birthplace of miracles. Your job is not to force clarity, but to create space for it. Your job is not to rush into the next version of yourself, but to allow it to emerge in its own timing. The void teaches patience, faith, and surrender, qualities your higher self will need as you step into new realities. One day soon, you will look back on this season with gratitude. You will realize it was in the quietest, most uncertain chapter of your life that your true self began to rise. You will remember that the emptiness you feared was actually the fullness of possibility. The void is not your enemy. It is your initiation into freedom. It is the sacred pause where your soul breathes, reorganizes, and prepares you for the life that is waiting on the other side. So breathe deeply, be still, trust what you cannot yet see. The void is not where you end. It is where the new you begins.
When the old self has died, and the void has tested your patience, there comes a sacred invitation to let the shift happen. This is the stage where surrender becomes your greatest ally. For so long, you may have been taught to control, to push, to strategize, to make things happen with sheer willpower. But the shift into your higher self cannot be forced. It cannot be micromanaged. It can only be allowed. Allowing does not mean doing nothing. It means aligning yourself with the flow of life instead of swimming against it. It means learning to listen rather than demand, to soften rather than resist. The universe is already carrying you toward your transformation, but you must unclench your fists, release your grip, and let the river guide you. This is one of the hardest lessons for the human ego, because the ego thrives on control. It wants to know the how, the when, the what next. But the new self emerges not through control, but through trust. You don't demand a flower to bloom. You give it sunlight, water, and patience. You don't break the shell of a butterfly to make it come out faster. You trust its timing. In the same way, you cannot rip yourself out of the cocoon. You must let your wings form, quietly, naturally, until you are strong enough to fly. So what does it mean in practice to let the shift happen? It begins with presence. Every time your mind runs into fear about the future or regret about the past, you bring yourself gently back into the now. In this present moment, you are safe. In this present moment, you are held. Transformation does not happen in the future. It unfolds now, breath by breath, choice by choice. Letting the shift happen also means practicing radical self-compassion. Too often, seekers are harsh with themselves during awakening. They think, I should be further along by now, or why am I still struggling with old patterns? But the truth is, even the struggle is part of the process. Compassion allows you to see your wounds without judgment, to cradle your fears instead of condemning them. Self-compassion creates the inner environment where the new self can take root. Another doorway into alignment is the body. When you surrender control, your body becomes the instrument of your higher self. Practices like conscious breathing, gentle movement, meditation, and grounding in nature all help you release resistance. With every deep breath, you tell your nervous system, it is safe to change. With every walk in the quiet of the earth, you remind yourself, I belong here, and I am supported. Visualization can also become a sacred tool at this stage. When you close your eyes and imagine your new self, not as some faraway dream, but as a present reality, you begin to shift your energy toward alignment. See yourself walking as the person you are becoming. Feel the emotions of freedom, clarity, and peace, as if they are already yours. Your subconscious mind responds to these images, and slowly, your energy body reorganizes to match them. But perhaps the most important key is surrender. Surrender is not weakness. It is the recognition that there is a wisdom greater than your own guiding this process. It is saying, I trust life. I trust my soul. I trust that even when I cannot see the path is unfolding beneath my feet. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving over, placing your transformation into the hands of the divine. As you surrender, you will notice subtle shifts. The fear that once felt overwhelming begins to soften. The confusion in your mind begins to clear. Small synchronicities start appearing, moments of alignment, encounters with people, or opportunities that feel divinely timed. These are the signs that the new self is anchoring. These are the confirmations that you are on the right track. Of course, even in this stage, the ego may try to interfere. There will be days where doubt returns, where you want to force things, where impatience takes over. That is normal. The invitation is not to be perfect, but to return again and again to trust. Each time you notice resistance, take a breath and release it. Each time you catch yourself clinging, remind yourself, the river knows where it is going. Letting the shift happen is not a one-time choice, it is a daily practice. Every morning you wake up, you choose to trust again. Every challenge that arises, you choose to soften instead of harden. Every moment of uncertainty, you choose to lean into faith rather than fear. And slowly, these small daily choices accumulate into transformation. And then one day, you will realize the shift has already happened. You will notice that the things which once triggered you no longer hold power. The relationships that drained you have naturally fallen away. The heaviness in your body has been replaced with a lightness you cannot quite explain. You will look at yourself in the mirror and feel an unfamiliar sense of recognition, like you are finally meeting the self you were always meant to be. This is the miracle of letting the shift happen. You did not force it, yet it unfolded. You did not fight for it, yet it arrived. The new self does not come through striving, but through surrender, through alignment, through trust. So if you are here right now, standing on the edge of your becoming, remember this: you do not need to rush, you do not need to control, all you need to do is allow. Life is carrying you forward, your soul is guiding you home. The shift is already happening inside you, and the more you surrender to it, the more gracefully it will unfold. This is your invitation, not to fight, not to fear, but to flow, to step out of the old story, to release the need for certainty, and to let the divine intelligence within you lead the way, because the truth is, your higher self already knows where you are going, and all you need to do is let the shift happen.